What's going on, guys, and welcome to April's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered to us on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month, we talk about it like a book club. My name's Seth, and joining me today is Chevy. Chevy, hopefully you're doing well.
Yeah.
And hopefully you got a chance to play Meet Your Maker, Sackboy A Big Adventure, and Tales of Iron. I assume you played them all.
I did.
And hopefully you are excited for the games coming in, May? Which are Grid Legends, Chivalry 2, and Descenders. If you don't know what those games are, let's take a real quick look. We got Grid Legends, which seems to be a racing game, one I forgot even existed, but I think it came out like a year ago, so it's actually kind of a newer game. Then we got Chivalry 2, which is a first-person melee combat game that, fun fact, I bought this when it came out. I played one match, I never came back, and that is not because I disliked the game, and I'm not going to talk about that too much. I just played something else and forgot about it, so it'd be nice to actually play this myself. And then Descenders is a downhill bike game where the challenge is not crashing and getting to the bottom as fast as you can, something similar to Trials. Chevy, what do you think about these games?
I mean, all three of them are kind of out of my wheelhouse. That being said, I welcome a chance to try them. I'm not the biggest racing game guy, but I appreciate them, and I'm sure I'll get something out of Grid Legends. I know that's a Codemasters title, right?
And a brand that they have struggled to figure out what the hell they're doing with, because it seems like every other Grid is like trying to be a sim racer or an arcade racer or something in between.
So Need for Speed.
Yeah, 100%. There's some racing games out there that just know what they're doing and they do it really well. And there's these other guys out there who are like, we would like to be popular too, and they get sold, but like they can't decide where the hell they're trying to go with it. So,
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know anything about it, so I can't really have a hard opinion, other than just my base interest, which is pretty minimal when it comes to racing games. So I don't expect a whole lot, which is probably a good place to go into a game. Chivalry 2, I have played the first Chivalry, so I kind of have a loose idea what I'm getting to here. I think with people, I might enjoy it. I don't see myself enjoying it by myself, but I could be pleasantly surprised. And then Descenders, that could be fun. I like Trials, but I don't like everything that is Trials if that makes sense.
yeah.
So we'll see. What I'm seeing right now does seem like they're letting you kind of do these crazy motions in the air and stuff like that. So it could be a fun time. We'll see.
Descenders is always, I guess it's procedural. I didn't know that. Descenders is interesting because when Game Pass was like, when it came out and people were like trying to like talk it up, Descenders came up a lot, which I thought was interesting because I looked at it, I'm like, that game looks kind of like shit visually. But everybody's like, oh no, it's really fun, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't on PlayStation at the time, so they're kind of using it like as a like, oh, well, Xbox has Descenders, which I thought was really interesting. But I have played it. I'm not going to talk about what I thought of it, but I get why people liked it because it is a simple but straightforward formula that, like I said before, I kind of compare it to Trials because it has that like trying to survive the track feel to it though. This is going to be an easy month, which is great because this last month was for some reason kind of hard for me to get through in terms of playing the games. I just had no motivation to really want to play anything this month. It's been kind of a weird month. But yeah, going to this one, racing is always something I'm into. I'm down to try any racing game. I haven't played Grid Legends, so this will be cool to try out. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it doesn't feel like a game that doesn't know what it's trying to be. It does look like they got, they know what they're doing with it. So it's it looks kind of arcadey. It's showing a lot of crashing, which is interesting. So Chivalry 2, I'm really excited to return to and see what they've done with it. Because like I said, I bought it when it came out, played it. It was Chivalry 2. And then like right after I stopped playing it, they had just introduced like a bar fight mode where you're just in a bar and everybody's picking up chairs and like punch each other and stuff, which I thought looked kind of cool. So really excited to see what they've brought to the table. And how it plays on console, we'll see there. And then Descenders I've played, but I played it way back when it came out. I played it on Xbox, so it'll be interesting to play that now and see if that's come a long ways or if it's the same game or I didn't even get a whole lot of experience with it the first time I played it. I played it for like a split second, so it would be fun to actually sit down and play. And this is a game that's up my alley. This is the type of game I typically like. I like challenging games. I like ragdoll. I like the fast pace of it. So looking forward to this month coming up. All right, anything else? Let us know in the comments what you guys think about Maze Games, Grid Legends, Chivalry 2, and Descenders in the comments. Are you guys excited, not excited? And everything in between. Let me know everything you think in the comments below. All right, so we played some games, and those games were Meteor Maker, Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and Tales of Iron. I feel like we should start with Sackboy, A Big Adventure. If you didn't get a chance to play Sackboy, A Big Adventure, it is a up to 4-player cooperative, almost top-down. What is that, isometric from that angle? I'm not sure. It's kind of like over further. It's kind of a weird view, but it's a platformer. You run around as Sackboy and friends through different maps. You complete the maps. You're able to continue further on the overall world map. There's a lot of collectibles, a lot of cosmetics to change the way your characters look. You can still slap the shit out of each other, which I experienced quite a bit of when I played with randos online. And it's a Sackboy Big Adventure. We both played it, and Chevy, let me know your impressions of Sackboy in April.
Okay. Well, I do have some previous experience with Little Big Planet, so I had a pretty decent idea what I was getting into with this. And honestly, it was kind of exactly as I was expecting it to be when I played it. These games, specifically this one, but in general, are made very well. They really kind of like have a style that's hard to miss. The gameplay loop is simple but complicated enough to do some fun platforming stuff with. I did not play multiplayer, so I can't really talk on that front. But from a single player perspective, as much as I could enjoy it, I was enjoying myself with it. I don't like platformers, so I struggle with enjoying, making the jumps and collecting all the things and stuff like that. That's just really not my gameplay loop. But
I'm also not a big platformer guy, but one thing I like about this specific platformer is there's a lot of interactivity.
There is.
That I think is really creative and interesting. There's situations where you like grip onto wheels that are spinning and you have to like time it to throw yourself, and there's like things you grab and pull, and the game actually utilizes the PS5's haptics, so you get a lot of feedback when you're interacting with things. You could tell this was an early PS5 game because they were still trying to push the feeling through the controller. So yeah, that's just one thing I think kind of adds something for me personally in terms of platformers, because I also am not a huge platformer guy anymore.
Yeah, but I agree with what you're saying there, especially with like the good use of the controller features, and really the only other platform I can think of off the top of my head that kind of has like a lot of that, like be able to like do multiple little things in it is like Mario games. A lot of times, you pull stuff out of the ground, you attach the walls, you wall jump, stuff like that. This game's got a lot going on in that regard too. I don't think it's as it can be as high like speed as like Mario can be, but I do think it's well made and has a lot to do as well. I like the customization. That's something I've always appreciated about this company in general. When they make stuff, they're really about expressing yourself however you want to do that. In fact, to the point where they made a game where you can literally make whatever you want in it. So,
to be fair, just before somebody corrects you in the comments, because they might, I don't think this one was done by Media Molecule. It was done by a different company, but your point still stands. It's this brand has a big emphasis on that.
Well, sure, and I doubt they just kind of made it without any
oversight from
oversight. Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. I just want to say that before someone's like, they didn't make that.
That's fair, but regardless, the formula is all still there. So, it comes from those roots. And other than that, it was pretty much what I expected it to be. You collect enough points, you unlock the ability to go further into the game. So, It was fine. I have no complaints about it. It's just not my cup of tea, but it is a very well-made game. So,
Yeah. I'm gonna say something blasphemous. I think this game is better than Little Big Planet for the brand, which is weird because I've always appreciated Little Big Planet because it's super creative. I love the atmosphere. I love the visual style. There's so much creativity, and something that you see in this game carried over from those games is the environments are interactive. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on, but the perspective in Little Big Planet always felt weird as a 2D scrolling platformer that had like layers. And how floaty it felt was never great for me either. So I always really liked Little Big Planet, but not the gameplay, which is always a shame when that happens for me. This game feels just a little more precise in what they're trying to do. It maintains a lot of the creativity of Little Big Planet, the charm, the visual style, but the perspective, I think, is just better. Especially when you play with other people. I've played this in the past. It was one of the first games I bought from a PS5 when I got it on launch, and I played that with Josh and Sarah, I believe. And then I played this month with randos because, and this is kind of annoying, but I'm not going to punish the game for it in my grade. My save doesn't exist for this game, so that kind of sucked. So all my progress is gone. I started from the beginning, and I was like, well, I want to get some footage that it's not just the beginning of the game, so I hopped in with some randos, and this game has a really easy way to just play with random people, and played with them. And I was met instantly with a dude who was just slapping me nonstop, even during times where, like, you're gonna see in the footage probably, but I was like running around trying to dodge things. Every time he passed me, he'd smack me and just keep running. And like, it wasn't a big deal, but I'm like, people are just doing this. Like, this is just the thing. But yeah, it's still fun. I think this game is better multiplayer. It is serviceable single player, but multiplayer, if you're playing with people you're having fun with, the game is definitely designed for. There's so many things to collect and so many things to explore that when you have more people doing it, it's more gratifying. It does have a kind of competitive feel to it though when you're playing with other people, because like they're trying to collect everything before you collect it, and everybody wants to get the things. So you do run into situations where everybody's just rushing to everything that gets revealed, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, but I don't think a lot of people would be stoked about that. If you're playing with your kids or something, it would be one thing, but when you're just playing with a bunch of adults and you got people who are a little more ambitious than others, it starts turning into who can get it first. But yeah, the gameplay's good though. I enjoy it. Like I said, I like this perspective more. I think the platforming feels better. I think the maps are really creative and a lot of fun. I like the setup. It reminds me of old school games where you just have like a map like Super Mario World, and you just go to this level, you complete it, and then you get enough things, you can go to the next level. There's something that still really works for me with that. It just feels like you can complete things. It's not an open world where you're just like, what can I do if I go this direction? It's just like, there's that level. Oh, you didn't get everything? Well, we're telling you didn't collect everything. You can go back and get everything if you want, or you can go to the next thing. And there's something that still really works for me with that. The customization is fun. I like that you can get parts as you play, but you can also purchase them at stores. It's fun to see, everybody looking different and trying to make their characters look as ridiculous as possible. I don't remember the story. I know it has one, but I didn't play it for that.
Dude sucks up all the fucking sack people.
Yeah, which is definitely a war crime. So that should be taken care of. And yeah, overall, I enjoyed myself. I was bummed to see that my progress was gone. I installed the PS4 and PS5 version just to see if like maybe there was a conflict in where the save went. I don't know, because I uninstalled the PS5 version because I needed the space, and I have a external where I have all my PS4 stuff installed. So I installed it on PS4 just to save some space for Plus Club, and then it wasn't there, and I installed the PS5 version, it wasn't there. I was like, okay, I guess that's gone. So, but that's not the game's fault, I don't think. I think that's a cloud save issue, so that's probably PlayStation's fault. Yeah, overall fun game, and like I said, I like this better than Little Big Planet. I think Little Big Planet has like more heart and more like inspiration to it because it was the original idea. But I think as a game that I'm playing, I think this one is just more fun for me personally, and I enjoyed playing it again. But playing with randos was not awesome. And it was fine, but not awesome. And I don't like to play this by myself. So this is a game I would probably come back to and play if I had friends over who were like all same place, wanted to play like split screen or something like that. I don't know if I would play this with them over like I'd play something else probably. Yeah. So it's not a top priority game, but it is fun. And yeah, I think that's all I got to say on it. Do you have anything else?
No.
All right, let's jump into recommendations. I would recommend this to people who like platforming games, people who like the Little Big Planet brand, people who like same screen games, people who have kids. I think this would be a good game for that because you can really search for everything and collect everything, or just run through and smack things and get to the end. So it's gonna work for most people, I think. I honestly think like everybody could play this, but I'm not going to give it that recommendation because there's a lot of people who are just not going to be into it too. So, but I think they could play and probably get some fun out of it. People who like to collect things, you want every little thing. You want to be able to check off, you got this 100%, this 100%. You might be into this. People who like cosmetics in games, collecting cosmetics kind of goes with that recommendation. I would recommend this to you. People who like quirky, zany, fun, charming style games, I would recommend this to you. And yeah, got anything?
I don't think I could add to that.
Yeah, I just jumped in because I'm like, I know. All right, and so you did your impressions first, so I'll grade it. I'm going to give this as a grade. I'm struggling here. I'm going to give it a B+. It's a solid game. It's really well made. It doesn't reinvent anything, but it's just, a really good attempt at this kind of game, and it's fun, but it's not amazing. And yeah, B+. I
think I'm going to echo your B+. I was on the fence between that and an A- because I don't think the game has anything wrong with it outside of my personal taste in it. So,
and my save disappearing.
Yeah,
but I'm not.
But who knows why that happened?
Yeah. Like I said, that's not part of my grade.
Yeah, I'm going to go with B+ because I do think it's a good game. I think it's well made. But I do also think it was a game that was just kind of made to be a showcase.
A launch. Yeah, it's a launch game.
So it's a little bit of a shallow experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you get a full game out of it. But yeah, it's fine. B+.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I do think, quality-wise, there's nothing wrong with it for sure. I just I do think the game was created as a showcase game, as a launch game, and it worked perfectly for that, but it doesn't have the depth to it to really get me super into it, and so I can't really give it an excelling grade. So yeah, both B+. Anything else you want to say on it?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what do you guys think of Sackboy A Big Adventure. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What's your favorite elements of the game? What are things maybe that you really didn't like about it? Did you lose your save, possibly? And yeah, let me know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to Sackboy A Big Adventure. Next game we played this month was Tales of Iron. Tales of Iron, in case you didn't play it, is a 2D perspective action game where you play as are they mice or rats?
They're rodents.
They're rodents. You play as a rodent who is supposed to be king of his kingdom after his dad. And
Small Prince Rodent.
Yeah, and your kingdom gets taken over by frogs, frog lizard people, and you're essentially trying to take back your kingdom. Like I said, it's a 2D game. You explore castles, villages, you fight enemies with shield combat, dodging, melee combat. I think there's a bow and arrow in the game. Yeah, there was. And you fight bosses. There's boss battles. And there's gear, so you get to upgrade your little mouse dude and explore this this neat-looking cartoony 2D world. We both played it, and I'll go into my impressions first. This game I felt conflicted on as I played it. I actually thought the story was pretty well done for the perspective. I like the art style. I like the exploration. I actually thought it was neat in the beginning when you're running around the castle, just seeing all the details of people doing things in the background. It felt like you were like in a castle, only 2D. Like in the background, you'd see stuff happening. Like you're in like a dining hall and a blacksmith room. And then even going to towns as you pass buildings in the background. They did a really good job on making a 2D perspective world feel 3D. running out in the woods, all sorts of stuff. It's a really neat world they've crafted with a cool story, and I think the characters are cool looking too, because they're just like little animal people, which is always fun. The game's right up my alley in a lot of ways too, because there's gear. I was actually switching things out to make sure I could play more my style. But my biggest gripe with this game was combat feels almost good. It has a really interesting system where you have to, when you're walking, you have to turn around and face different directions. And the game has a habit of having enemies attack you from both sides. And so that's not necessarily, as a challenge, a difficult thing, but the game felt clunky in the way you move in combat. And I found myself a lot of times just not enjoying fighting multiple people at once, because it just felt really sticky. And I feel like they could have did it better, made it more streamlined and smooth to make the combat better. I appreciate they're trying to have something challenging. I do like that it's a game where you have to think about blocking, think about dodging, watch attack patterns. These are all things I really enjoy, but just interacting with the combat felt like a fucking chore for me. Like, I kept playing, because I'm like, I like a lot of things about this game. But every time I got into specifically like a boss battle, and started sending ads in while this dude's jump around going nuts, and I got these people shooting at me and people swinging at me. I'm like, this is almost like a puzzle game at this point, because I have to start, like, I die. I'm like, okay, so those guys are going to come in. I got to kill that dude first. I got to get to this guy while dodging that guy. And so I just feel like it could have a better flow. But outside of that, I feel like pretty big gripe, but not, it doesn't ruin my complete enjoyment of what else they did in this game. I think the game is really, really kind of neat. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I did feel compelled to want to keep playing it for almost everything that I've said so far. Outside of, I just felt like combat a lot of the times felt unintuitive, and just like, I just feel like, if you took it back for a second in the development and just like rethought a couple things, this game could be really good. And obviously that's just my opinion. Maybe you played it and the combat was perfect, and I envy you, because I would still be playing it possibly, but I still have it installed. So that's something I'll throw out there as well. A lot of times with Plus Club, if I play a game and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get it, and then I just uninstall it because I'm not going to play it again, but which is pretty telling. But with this game, I kept it because there's just a lot of things about it I think are really neat. It's more deep than I thought it would be, without being like a super complex game. It just offered more than just being a rat walking around hitting things, which I really appreciated. And yeah, it was pretty cool, but also hard for me to want to play more because of the combat not being great. Yeah.
So I'm sitting here listening to you. Mm-hmm. And you literally probably said every single point I would have said myself.
Okay.
I think it is a good looking game. I like the themes of the rats versus the frogs. I also like that you play as the runt, basically, of the litter, and you like have to do so much to like prove yourself to be king, and then you get to have that sparring match against your brother, who's a giant compared to you, and you win, and they're like, okay, you have the right to be king, and there's this nice like pacing happening in the beginning of the game, and then disaster falls, and like the tone of the game changes, and like you go on this basically adventure to, at least early on in the game, I didn't get super far, so I can't speak for the later part, but to avenge and hopefully keep your kingdom,
take your kingdom back. Yeah.
So it's a really neat idea. I think it visually has a lot of charm. I also agree. I think the backgrounds look fantastic. Honestly, to the point where your character almost looks like a piece of paper on top of it, though. It's a little weird sometimes. Yeah. But nitpick, I still think it looks good. I also think the combat is probably the biggest downfall of this game. It is. It works, but it doesn't feel fluid. It feels choppy, I guess would be a way to word it.
Yeah.
Totally playable. It's fine, but I had more fun exploring than I did fighting. So,
Yeah.
And the dialogue I enjoyed a lot too. The writing is done pretty well in the game. So like I was actually paying attention to what people were saying and stuff, which I mean honestly kind of takes a lot these days. So, so I think they did a really good job in that regard. I like the equipment loadout, light, medium, and heavy, styles. You have a weight limit, so you have to like figure out how you want your character to feel in combat, similar that you would in, for lack of a perfect or a single example, just like a lot of Soulsborne games are that way. You have to juggle agility versus tankiness. So. I like those kind of systems. It makes you have to think about your play style, but it also makes your experience a little different than other people's. So there's a variety of weapons, swords, spears, etc. They all play completely different, which was a lot of fun as well. Like you said, if it wasn't for the combat system, I probably would have just kept playing it. But I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I get it. I don't want to play anymore because of this. So. It's fine. I'm sure, that might not be a problem for some people, but, I have so many things to play. I have to kind of prioritize my time. So,
yeah, exactly.
But I had a good time, and I do think it's a good game. So if they make another, I would just hope they kind of iron out the combat system a little better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's just one glaring issue away from being a really great 2D indie game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and to throw it out there too, I don't typically, and I think you're in the same boat. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't really typically like Metroidvania style games, which is basically what this is. And that didn't really cross my mind until we started talking about it. So
yeah, I hesitated to call it a platformer because it doesn't really feel like a platformer. It feels like an action game, but it is still a 2D game that is similar to like a Metroid style game or like just a platformer in general, and that is something that is pretty quick for me to just be like, yeah, I'll try it, but probably not going to stick around for it. But just because of the subject matter, the tone, the visual style, I actually was like, oh, this is kind of dark. Like people just got all murdered by a bunch of frog people. Now like you're coming back to the castle and they got all these barricades up and like there's dead people and stuff. And I'm just like, oh shit, this is kind of wild. And then you get to the town and you're trying to take that back while they're like invading, and I was like, This is a lot cooler than I thought it'd be. Until I had to fight things. Mostly just the bosses.
Especially bosses.
Yeah, the bosses were the most annoying because like the boss itself I thought was cool, but then like if ads came in, I'm like, okay, fuck.
Yeah.
Here we go. It just I felt like I was being punished for their not great combat system.
And then keeping track of archers at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The game really quickly is just like, let's punish you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay. So yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right, let's jump into recommendations. Well, you go first.
I mean, I would give a loose recommendation if you're into Metroidvania style games. I don't know how much backtracking you actually do in this game, so it's not going to be one for one in that regard, but the play style is super similar. If you like games with different choices of loot and weights and stuff like that, I would give it a shot. If you like darker stories, in a medieval style setting or fantasy setting, I would check it out. I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a very specific kind of game. So if you're into like 2D action games, Metroid style games, platformers loosely, it's not really a platformer because you're not jumping around like a whole lot to you do, but it's not really like the focus of the gameplay. The gameplay is about the combat. I would recommend it to you. If you're into this sounds weird, but every time I say this in an episode, I wonder if someone's going to be like, what does that even mean? But if you're into like indie games and indie design, it has that like not quite Flash look to it, but like it's got that like cartoony look to it that you only get with indie games. So if you're into that kind of game, I would recommend this to you just because the subject matter, the story, and the world are really well done and compelling. If you like medieval storylines, I would recommend it to you. It's pretty straightforward, but I thought it was definitely interesting. It's hard for me to say if you like quirky games because visually it is kind of quirky looking, but it's not like in tone. There's no like fun like to the characters. But yeah, it's kind of hard. Kind of hard. You already kind of brought it up, but like, yeah, I feel like gear, loot, building out a character kind of. And then loosely, very loosely, because I think the combat holds you back quite a bit. But if you're into challenging boss fights, possibly like Dark Souls, but not quite that hard, you might like this, because this is a game where you go through environments, fight junk mobs, and then eventually fight a big boss who does have attack patterns that you have to pay attention to, and dodge, stuff like that, like any platform really. But because of the tone and pacing of the combat, it feels closer akin to something like a Dark Souls, because you're blocking and dodging and stuff a lot in the combat. So, and then lastly, if you like the idea of animal characters, possibly like rats versus frogs, you might dig this. Kind of like Sarah, for instance, we'll see like a visual style with like rat people, and she's like, oh, I like that, that's cool. And
yeah,
she was telling me before I even knew what this game was, like she was interested in playing it back when she had heard about it, and I was like, I didn't even know this existed until Plus Club. So yeah, but yeah, kind of hard to recommend, because it is what it is, and if you're into that, check it out. Okay, did I go first when it came to impressions, or did you? I think I went first, right?
I'm grading first.
You're grading, okay, yeah. So yeah, grade it.
All right. It's gonna feel a little weird giving it the same as the last game, but I'm gonna give it a B plus, because I think the combat kind of holds it back. Otherwise, I'd probably honestly give it an A minus. I do think it's got a lot of stuff I really enjoy about it, and then just thematically, it's very much my style. I like dark fantasy, so
yeah, agreed.
But I do think, for me, I don't enjoy fighting things in it, and I can't give it an A because of that. So I'm gonna give it a B plus. I think it has the potential to be an A game, though.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not gonna agree with you with your grade for once. I'm gonna go B minus. I don't think I could give it less than a B, because I think there's a lot of really good stuff about it. But because my hesitation to play it is based off of the combat, which is the core component of the gameplay, is really kind of a bummer for me, because I do like everything about it. I already went over that, but I feel less compelled to want to play it because when I get into a fight, and specific types of fights, I know I'm just like, it's not going to be fun for me, and that sucks. So yeah, B minus. I 100% would be grading it much higher if the combat was better, less clunky. So yeah, I'm looking forward to if they make Tales of Iron 2, if they can refine the combat and make it more interesting, more, flow better. They would likely get a higher grade from me, just because there's a lot to like here. And if you like that combat, this game's probably, you're probably like, what the hell's the problem with the combat? I don't like the way the movement feels. So
at the end of the day,
yeah. So yeah, B plus and a B minus. We both liked it, and let us know in the comments what you guys think of Tales of Iron. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think about the combat? Let's have the conversation about that, since that was our biggest criticism. Did you like it? Did you not like that? And what do you think about the story? What do you think about the loot, the gear you get, how the game plays, and if you're somebody who played through this game and beat it, is it a game that I should continue playing, and maybe possibly gets better later? Let me know, and let me know everything you're thinking about Tales of Iron in the comments below. Last game we played in April was Meet Your Maker. If you didn't get a chance to play Meet Your Maker, it is a first-person shooter where you either attack other people's player-made raids, or you make your raid to be attacked by random dudes. You have to go into a raid, go find I forgot what it's called, but it's essentially this core thing that's always going to be on the map somewhere, and you have to grab that and escape with it. If you do that, you win. If you die, you just go again. When you make your raid, you get to go through a map editor where you have this little guy who's always walking back and forth from the starting point to the core, and if you ever obstruct his ability to get to the core, it will not let you publish your map, which thank you, because you'd have a lot of people making exploits. the core features of the game when it comes to just what you're doing in these raids is enemy types can be placed with guns that fly around. This costs a certain amount of currency when you're building the maps. You can't just put everything on the map. You have to be smart about the way you build your map. There's also a shitload of traps, which is the biggest part, that you can have either as they're going through the raid or once they've grabbed the core. You can have things pop up on their way out to kind of shake things up. It has a very, very dystopian, like rusty desert visual style to it, and a story that I have no idea what the hell's happening, but it seems very creepy. And there's a weird little baby thing in a tube that's very intent on you going out and raiding other people's places. So yeah, very community driven. And one last thing I'm going to add is it has 2-player co-op when you're doing raids, which is another very chef's kiss fucking thing they added to this game, because they definitely, that's something I wasn't expecting them to add, and they're like, yeah, there's co-op. It's like, that's fucking cool. So we both played it. What'd you think of Meet Your Maker?
So I didn't play the multiplayer, which I think unfortunately is a bit of a shame, because I think it might have helped my opinion a little bit. I think this game has a lot of neat stuff going for it. I like the visual style. It kind of gives me that old school, like, Doom and Quake vibes. Being a bit of a boomer in that, but I don't know, very nostalgic looking game when I'm looking at it. I like the idea of it, and I think they have a lot of neat systems when it comes to that, but I think the overall experience feels a little shallow right now. Mm-hmm. And I want to emphasize the right now part, because I do know this is something they're planning on just like adding onto constantly.
Yeah, this is made by, for anybody who doesn't know, Behavior, who makes Dead by Daylight. Yeah. So they have already a well-established multiplayer game on their hands.
Yeah. And I just, I think there's a lot of really good ideas here. And I think the addition of co-op, both in tackling people's, puzzle boxes, basically. And I think you can create together, you said, or...
People can visit your raid while you're building.
Yeah, and so they can give you feedback while you're making your own type of deal,
which is really kind of cool, because they can go through and play it while you're building it and give you feedback, and you kind of work together on that.
Yeah.
And in a game that is purely a online multiplayer game where you're just attempting to go through real stuff, it's cool. There's a social element to it.
Agreed. And I give them nothing but for props for that. I think I already brought up with the aesthetic as a generic, not generic, as an overarching thing, but more specifically the character designs and their style of equipment and stuff like that, I think is really cool. You don't see it a lot in a lot of games, and I think it definitely stands out as its own style as well, which I really like, while also being reminiscent of games like I mentioned prior. Or previously. I think it plays good. It feels good to run around. The shooting as many times as you can shoot, because they're not trying to make it too easy for you.
Yeah, there's a balance to it.
Yeah, I think it feels good. It works the way you expect it to. The melee feels good. The trap system is fun. I like that you can destroy them or just avoid them while you're running someone's course. You can place enemies in some pretty tricky spots sometimes. I've been killed by an enemy I didn't know was there until I died. So pretty neat. I always applaud anyone who can give you tools to be creative and make things. That's a huge reason Minecraft is so successful. And not to make this sound even remotely close to that, but it does give you tools to be creative. So yeah, I think this is a game I need to revisit in like a year.
Yeah.
Or, just anytime they have a major update, basically. Because there's just not a lot of, like, there's no hook to, like, get me in there and want to play it. It's like this shell, and I'm like, this is cool. Now we got to fill it with stuff. And I just don't think it's there yet. But other than that, I think it's a neat project, and I hope they can and do support it, because I would like to see its future.
Yeah, pretty much agree with you verbatim. I think the game as an idea and the way it's been executed is really well done, and it has things that I didn't expect them to do. I've done everything in the game you pretty much can do. I played it on PC when it was in beta, and then I played it here. And the raid building is fun. There's a lot of cool tools. I think I'm somebody who's like made maps in games before with like map editors and stuff, not just in-game ones. So I can do a little more advanced stuff than you would expect. A game's in-game editor would have. But this I appreciate. Gives you enough tools to get creative. But I think somebody who doesn't really want to sit there and work on a map, I think it'd be more inviting for them because it's kind of simple too, which is nice. I think they designed it in a really smart way that I think most people, whether you're more advanced in map building or not at all, can get in there and work on stuff. And that's so important because there's more people who are going to want to do the shooting than the building in almost any game ever. Like, people want to play it, they don't really want to build the stuff. You look at Dreams, and like most people are checking out Dreams, but they're not making them. And God bless the people who are making them, because there's some people out there who are just insanely talented.
Oh, yeah.
And you really see a huge variety of raid types in this game with the limited amount of tile pieces and environments. You see a lot of really interesting builds. You go in some places, it's really easy. The person probably threw it together. They weren't really trying too hard. And then there's people who are like really trying to fine tune their raid to make sure they're killing as many people invading as possible, which I really think is a lot of fun. I in a fun way get pissed when I get murdered by a creative trap. Whether somebody has a false wall and then a arm grabs me and pulls me into a section where a bunch of bombs just drop down and explode. Whether I die or escape that, I'm like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. I think it not only because they can get more types of people who want to build maps. You get a good variety of maps being built by people. And it's cool too because I've built maps on PC. It gives you a lot of data on where people are dying. You can watch how they died, and then you can edit your map while it's already been published and then republish it, so you can try and really dial in your raid to be more effective. And I think that's awesome. Even if you're just running around doing like the raiding constantly, and then you just go back and check your raid every once in a while and see if you got any rewards for killing people, is kind of a cool gameplay loop. And then the gameplay's fun. I think doing the raids is fun. I think it's stressful. One small nitpick I have with this game specifically and the PS5 controller is this is a game I have zero interest in playing on console after this. And that's not the game's fault. It's just a game that you got to be looking around constantly for traps. And with a mouse, it's just way, way easier to be like checking everything in a faster way. Or playing on console, I was a little more methodical in my movements because I had to, use a fucking analog stick to look around. So that was kind of rough. But outside of that, the game itself, like just what it offers, I think it is really cool. It has a very simplistic, you have a blade, you got a gun, you got a grappling hook, don't die. And with the first gun, you can retrieve your bolts, which I think is a really cool thing too. You get a couple shots, and then you got to go get those back. So in an environment where things are trying to kill you and there's traps set up to murder you, it is a fun gameplay loop of like, only shoot when you really need to because you don't want to lose that bolt. And then when you complete an area and you're safe, just get your bolts back, and it's gratifying. Later you get guns that you can't retrieve the bolts, but you can shoot faster. There's just a lot of little cool differences in the way you play through the game and how the game's been balanced to make it feel like your weapons are more so tools to get through the raid and not just like a machine gun to kill the enemies when they come at you, if that makes sense. I do like the visual style. I think it's neat. I think it has almost kind of like a cyberpunk look to it when it comes to like the character designs, which is really interesting. But then the environment is like apocalyptic. It's just like there's just raids out in the desert, and it's kind of creepy. My gripe with the game, and this is something that's not finite because or final, is the game does feel hollow right now. It's an awesome foundation. I've always liked games that have tried to make something like this, where it's like community driven. People are building dungeons or whatever. There's like a game back in the day, I think Ubisoft had it, where like you'd build dungeons and it was like a ARPG and people would be clicking through it. That one felt really money hungry because it was free to play.
Yeah, that was a please give us money system.
But this is a premium game, which I thought was really surprising. I think Dead by Daylight is too, though, which is crazy. Because these games could easily be free to play, but I think that kind of takes away from the premium feel of it. But yeah, this game feels like a really good idea that's been executed really well, but just doesn't have the content yet. Because I played it extensively on PC in the beta, and the PS5 version I played here was the same content, so it's not like they only gave us some. And as you play through, there are some weapons you can unlock, and there are some new new traps and new enemy types you can put down your raid. But every time I'm leveling up and completing stuff and playing these raids, which is the fun aspect, I don't feel like I'm being properly rewarded. And I do get fatigued by the constant visual style of every single raid being just a rusty building in a desert. And obviously that's the visual style, but I do think in the future it would be great to see more varieties of locations in the background. They can still be apocalyptic, wherever the hell, but just give us something new to look at, new things for people building raids to be able to decide what they want their raid to look like. Give it more creative visual style, more tile types, and of course they're going to add more traps, more enemy types, more weapons, but I want to see what that's like when that does happen, because as of right now, I don't think there's a lot of long-term content unless you're just really into the raiding and the building of raids, which is fun, but for me personally, it's not long-term yet. There's not enough content there to keep me playing nonstop. But I think there is a potential in the future for it to keep me playing if there's more content in the game, because I like everything about the game, and I think they executed it very well. And I do think it does do what it's supposed to do, probably in the best way I've seen a game like this offer that. And it has co-op, which I think is fucking awesome. And I would love to see more ways to implement multiplayer things, maybe bigger raids that people can build that can have like more people in them, or more people being involved in maybe shared building raids, and you share the the resources you get from it. I don't know, I'm not a dev, these are just ideas, but yeah, the game is awesome. I didn't like playing it on console, but that's just me and my preference. That's not, the game plays just fine. But yeah, great game, needs more content for it to be something I have to play, because I would love this to be a game at some point where I'm like regularly coming back and checking my raid to see how it did, and then doing some raids to get some more resources to make my raids better. It definitely has that promise of a game that could be a regular game for me to play, but just not yet. So yeah, that's what you said verbatim, except for the controller thing. Let's jump into recommendations.
Okay.
So if you like map building, if you like the idea of building death traps for people to invade real people and being able to see statistics and see their gameplay footage, if that sounds appealing to you, play this. If you like first-person puzzle solving while in combat, check this out, because there's a lot of that going on. If you're a fan of Quake, this isn't Quake, but you'll appreciate it visually if you played Quake back in the day, like we have. If you like, it's hard to recommend this as other games because it's it's a newer idea. There's not a whole lot of games that do what this game's doing, so I have to mostly recommend it to anybody who's interested in this concept. If you think the concept of building your own raids for people to come in and die in, or invading other people's raids to get out alive, if you think that sounds cool, I think you should check it out, because it is the best example of that I've seen yet. And there's been very few games that have attempted this. But be warned, it just came out, and there's not a lot to it yet. But I'm hoping there'll be more. Yeah, what would you all add to that?
I don't think I could. It's a pretty is what it is experience. So
It's just interesting because it offers, like, you don't have to do both things. You can
Yeah.
just do the map building, or you can just do the raiding, and you can play the game fully and level up and get your upgrades. So it's not, maybe somebody listens to this and they're like, well, I don't want to really build anything. Like, you don't have to. You just fucking play it. You just shoot stuff, do it with your friend. It's fun. I've done it. And vice versa. Maybe you don't want to play through people's raids. You're like, that's a little stressful. You can build them, then sit back and build a second one, and then come back and check and see what happened.
You have to do a few because you have to unlock building. But yes.
Oh yeah. You're right. Basically it's a tutorial. It's teaching you how the game functions.
Yeah, it's like 2-3 missions, and then
Yeah.
you can. But yeah, so you do a little bit. But yeah, I don't think there's anything to add. It's it is what it is. Like, what I said earlier. So
Yeah. All right, grades. I go first.
yes,
I want to give the concept. I would give this concept like an A-, but I can't because I'm not playing it regularly right now. Like, I'm not playing it regularly because there's just not enough to chew on yet. But I could see in the future it having more to offer. So I'm gonna give it a light B right now. I think the game's very solid and could be really fucking good. But as of right now, I just don't feel like I'm being rewarded enough to play it, and the gameplay's not deep enough yet for me to play it for just the gameplay as well. So both things I'm looking for, gameplay and rewards for playing it, are both not as much as I want yet, but they could be. So B.
I'm gonna give it a C+. The reason I'm gonna give it a C+ is because you have to buy this game if you don't have it on for Plus.
That's fair.
And you're buying a game that has not a lot of content. I do think it is very early for this game. And obviously they need to make money to be able to develop something, but they have money from Dead by Daylight. And I feel like this game came out prematurely. So
Yeah.
I don't think I could go higher than C. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about the game, because I do think there's just a lot of neat ideas here, but I don't think there's a game yet. So
That's fair. I'm going to drop mine down to a B-. When you said it's not like really a game yet, like it's more of a concept. It's proof of concept. Like, this is what we're working on. And I'm like, that's cool.
yeah.
Give it to me when it's done. And it's technically done. Like, you can play it.
Sure.
But like, yeah, it just doesn't feel, it feels like they were just so excited about the concept. They're like, just get it out. And like, Dead by Daylight's doing so well that they have the money to just do that. But yeah, I'm gonna don't do this very often, but I'm gonna back up my B and go with, and I said light B. I'm gonna give it a B-. I don't personally, for me, want to give it a C because there are things I like about it a lot, but I understand where you're coming from for sure. But yeah, it does feel a little hollow. So as of right now, so yeah, C+, B-. Anything else?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think of Meet Your Maker. What did you like about it the most? Did you like the raiding or the building of the raids? If you did both, or did you only do one of the two? Why did you only do one of the two? Let me know. Maybe you are one of those people who are not interested in raiding or not interested in building things. What did you think of the building? What did you think of the raiding? And what do you think about the game as of right now? Is this a game that you are super into right now, or are you like us and see if there's potential for something in the future, or maybe you didn't like this game at all? Let me know why in the comments below. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Plus Club. For April, as always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes, check out our streams and socials linked down below, check out our Discord link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us in audio form. And we have a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel more than liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. If you're brand new, I also have a TikTok link down below as well. You can watch my shorts there. Just made a pretty funny one about Hunt Showdown, so check that out. And yeah, I've been Seth. This has been Chevy. Thank you for joining me, Chevy.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us, everyone who watched. And until the next episode, which will be Game of the Month, talking about Wild Hearts. Have a good one, guys, and take it easy.